Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dan here. Time for another playing card deck review. We have the Pike and Clover deck. Look at that nice medieval style printing. I'll get to that in a second. This is number 3 in the series. Some minor upgrades from version 1 to version 2 to version 3. The first two were printed by Cartamundi. I couldn't get any confirmation that number 3 actually was printed by Cartamundi. I'm assuming it was, but not 100% sure. This was a Kickstarter project by Ian Cumpstey, not sure of the pronunciation. But let's look at the Pike and Clover. Pretty simple box here. Back design right off the bat is nice. The honeycomb pattern with the flower inside. This is not by any stretch of the imagination even close to your standard bicycle USPCC type of deck. This draws inspiration from the Tarot de Marseille. And before you get alarmed, the word tarot in and of itself and the connotation of cards or playing cards is not a sinister thing, if you will. There are some people that are into a standard United States, the Rider-Waite tarot deck, as it's known, a 78 card deck for fortune telling. I do not personally subscribe to that mythology. I do not condone the use of playing cards or other types of cards for divination, cartomancy, anything like that. I'm just here to talk about the history and the design elements of the cards. So Tarot de Marseille represents the renderings from a French deck of cards. There's also the word tarot, which comes from German, and Terracini, which comes from Italy. There are 78 card decks in those cultures that are used for various trick-taking games. So, again, tarot in and of itself is not a quote-unquote sinister thing, if you will. We're simply talking about the design elements. And as we scroll through these cards, you can see our spades are actually spearheads. There were some elements that were taken from the Rider-Waite tarot deck, which is features more allegorical renderings as opposed to just your standard pips, like your 4 spades and your 5 spades and things like that. But again, this is a 55 card deck, your standard 52 plus 3 jokers. This is not to be considered in any way, shape, or form a tarot deck. This is simply inspiration taken from that Tarot de Marseille French style of artwork. Even on some Spanish cards, you would see things like, even just on a basic 4 of hearts, there's room in the center for a nice design. So it's something that you would see even on a Spanish deck. Maybe not that particular sun logo, but nonetheless. I like the Roman numerals on either side as well. Yeah, as I was saying, that Tarot de Marseille simply represents a particular style of art fashioned after more like old medieval wood cuttings that you might see as we get to our heart court cards. And you probably noticed I passed by. I was talking of something different when I was going through the spades, but you see down at the bottom, it actually has the name Jack of Hearts. This is the only court card, the Queen of Hearts, that also has the name up there in French as well. That's the only one of the 12 court cards. King of Hearts. And you see the Roman numerals continue with Jack, Queen, King, 11, 12, 13. There's our Ace of Clubs, more of a clover design. Oh, I skipped the 5 there. Basically the same. So as I finish scrolling through these, and I like how they did the 10 there with the 3x3 grid and then one big one at the top, and our Jack of Clubs, Queen, King. As we go through these, I guess the impression that I wanted to make is that, and I'll stop that thought for a minute. There's Cumpstey 2018 worked the design. He worked his name into the design of the diamonds there. As I had mentioned, I don't subscribe to the concept of cartomancy or divination. I'm just here for the art aspect. And this is not a quote-unquote tarot deck, if you will. The Rider-Waite deck is considered by many in that community as a deck that is specific for fortune telling. As such, I repeat, I do not have that deck in my collection and will not put it in my collection. 4 diamonds. I like the embellishment at the center there, that nice shield with those roses, almost looks like the Tudor rose logo. And we are almost through these. I like the Jack of Diamonds here, carrying the diamond on like a chain there, almost like he's coming back from a quest with some treasure. There's our queen, there's our king, and in the German style, there are 3 jokers and a blank. The jokers are, there's your red joker. I guess there is a trick-taking game in a German deck that uses 3 jokers, and they all outrank each other. So there's red, black, and green, as you could see by the stars in the corner index. And these are named the trickster, the player, and the harlequin. And they're named as such, again, only to loosely imitate that tarot style. But in a tarot deck, there are no cards that actually bear the names of these characters. So it's just, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just a nod to that style. It is not a quote-unquote tarot deck in the fortune-telling connotation, I should say. Excuse me. So, interesting deck, and I know I've talked a lot about my personal beliefs, or rather lack of beliefs, in fortune-telling and the tarot, but that particular style, Tarot de Marseille, I also find very interesting, and it was incorporated nicely into the Pike and Clover deck. Interesting one. That's been Dan with another deck review.